herself.
Awesome. Thanks, Rachel. Hi, everyone. I'm Grace Finn, and I oversee community giving for our charitable giving department. And Rachel and I collaborate a lot in creating resources to support your community's fundraising efforts, and we'll be tag teaming tonight's presentation. Before we do anything else, let's begin with a moment of prayer and reflection. On your screen is a photo of Dilmaya, who lives in Nepal. When an earthquake struck Nepal back in May, CRS was on the ground immediately, providing support to Dilmaya and her entire community so they could rebuild their homes and access resources to prevent COVID-19 in the midst of the emergency. Thanks to that immediate support, she has been able to focus on tending to her farm so she can sustain her livelihood despite the disaster. And you were part of that critical response. The gifts you and your communities have given to CRS enabled CRS to be agile and mobilize immediately to assist Dilmaya's community and countless other communities like hers in their time of great need. This is what our giving efforts are all about: transformation. We ourselves are transformed in choosing to give of ourselves in the service of others. And in turn, our gifts help communities work towards the change they seek. So let's begin with our own prayer of transformation.
Let's center ourselves and begin in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Lord, I was a pile of ash, and you made me a light for the world. I was a stone, and you made me salt for the earth. I was as lifeless as clay, and you made me a part of the body of Christ. I was sinful, and you made me holy. I was nothing, and you made me part of everything. Lord, in you I am transformed, and transformed still again. When the discouraged cry for hope, make me hope. When the hungry cry for bread, make me bread. When the thirsty cry for water, make me water. When the suffering cry for help, make me help. When the sick cry for healing, make me healing. When the bound cry for freedom, make me freedom. When the outcasts cry for love, make me love. Lord, who is hope, who is bread and water, who is help and healing, who is freedom, and who is love, transform me anew, and so keep me close to you as you transform the world. Amen. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen. Thanks for leading us in prayer, Rachel. It was beautiful. So for tonight, this is our agenda. As you know, this is a session focused on keys to creating a successful fundraiser. One of the most important things you can do to make your fundraiser successful is to reflect and learn from past experiences. So the first portion of our session is going to be focused on taking a look at past fundraisers. And the second part of our session will have you look forward to consider how you might apply some best practices and use resources at your disposal to enhance any future fundraisers. So to start, I'm going to give you some time to reflect on a past fundraiser you've been a part of and give you some time to glean some of the best practices from that fundraiser. So first, call to mind that fundraiser. It might be a fundraiser you hosted for CRS, or it might be something else. It might even just be a fundraiser you attended and not one that you planned. Just be sure to call a specific fundraiser to mind so you can reflect on these questions. What aspects of the fundraiser were most successful and why? And what aspect could have been improved? How might you have improved them? I'm going to give you about 5 minutes or so in silence to reflect, and then we'll share some of our key learnings in the large group. Feel free to turn off your camera while you're reflecting if that's helpful to you. Okay, so here's your 5 minutes. Okay, hopefully everybody had enough time to do some brainstorming, but let's come back together and share some of our learnings. If you're comfortable coming back and want to turn your camera back on, we'd love to see you. That would be nice for me. But otherwise, we'll just go ahead and get started. If you'd like to share, feel free to type in the chat or use the raise hand button. To raise your hand, look for the reactions button at the bottom of your screen. When you click on it, you'll see an option to raise your hand. And when we call on you to share, you can give us a 1 to 2 sentence summary of your fundraiser and then share one of your biggest learnings from it. So is anybody interested in sharing? Oh, Christopher.
Hi, how are you doing?
Thank you for joining us tonight.
Oh, thank you. It's nice to be here. So what I was thinking about for the last few years, our parish has had a fish dinner in Lent. And it's normally been a sit down, but because of the pandemic, this year they decided to make it, still have it, but do it as a takeout. So it's one of the things I think it's so successful is people really come together as a parish. So a lot of people are involved in it. A lot of hands, come together to put this, to make this happen. And it makes, a lot of money for the parish. So it's a good thing. One of the challenges was this was the first year we did it just as takeout. And what you could do is pre-order, or you could just walk in. Well, what happened was the first week, they had a huge number of people who just walked in, and then you had people who had pre-ordered, prepaid, and those people thought they were going to probably get theirs first, and it didn't work out that way. So it was kind of messy, but it was adjusted. What they did is, because the event is about 2 hours on Friday, they said for the first hour it's just for people who were prepaid, pre-ordered, and then after that, walk-ins could come in, and it worked out, and it turned out to be a really nice event.
What a great idea.
It sounds like one of the key learnings from that is logistics are important.
Yes.
We had a lot of
It
plans
was.
for those,
Yeah.
the waves of people. Outstanding. Thank you so much for sharing, Christopher. I see a hand
Pat.
from.
Hi, Pat. Oh, you're muted, hon.
Sorry.
No,
I'm new
no.
to this CRS chapter. I moved to Florida a few years ago. I have 30-some years experience working as a development development director for a religious congregation in Maryland. And I still do some grant writing for them. But anyway, so I haven't done any fundraising for the parish, but I think what I'm going to share, it can be used, the idea. And what I've learned in all these years is, if it's personal, if you can give a concrete purpose for raising the funds. So for instance, one of the missionaries I know in Honduras, he started this project to build houses for people. They live in cardboard, houses, and it's $1,500 just buy the wood and everything. And I was so touched by it, his story, that I decided to donate $500, and I asked 2 other people. But the pastor was able to give me a story about the first family who got a house. It was a mother who had been abused and abandoned by her husband and they were left on the streets. And so it's very personal. And I know that once he builds the house, they get the house built for what we're sending, he'll be able to tell us who it was and send us pictures. And I just think, the more when you're doing fundraising for a cause, the more like in the beginning you showed that woman from Nepal. It's real. It's not just, you're not paying for somebody's administrative salary or anything. You're paying to help somebody, and I think that's really important. And I think so. I think that kind of approach has a lot of potential for raising funds in the parish. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Pat, I think you said it so beautifully. Being able to share a personal connection and a reason really empowers people to make a good decision. Yeah.
Mhm.
And we always like to say, you guys are a part of CRS, right? And in a very, very real way. And so all of our stories here at CRS are your stories. So when you're looking to mobilize your communities and really get them involved in the mission of CRS through fundraising, use those stories, because and like I said, any of our stories are your stories too.
Mhm.
Well, thanks so much, Pat.
Yeah, thank you.
I think I saw another hand. Yes. Carmen, would you like to jump in?
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Carmen Inami. I live in Hayward, California, and I'm a member of the St. Joachim Parish. We are just on a campaign to raffle a Bible, and I want to share what we learned from this experience. First, you need to state the reason, making sure that it benefits everyone. Like in this case, what we are doing is raffling a Bible to pay for a projector that is broken on the right side of our church. So we announce this in each Mass, encouraging the parishioners to help the church. The second one is make a personal invitation. On the first Mass, we put it on the announcements, and we didn't have a good success selling raffle tickets at the end of the Mass. So we decided to ask the priest to do a personal invitation and telling the community this is a benefit for all of us. The third thing is to make the raffle affordable. If it's a Bible, don't make it like $30 a ticket. If you make it affordable, the many tickets you can buy, it can get you to the goal. Our goal is to fundraise $3,000 for the projector, plus a recipient for holy water that is most needed in our church. What are the things that are, we are learning that is not easy, is a better coordination, because it appears to be that if we're selling raffles tickets on each Mass, only a few hand is, helping.
Mhm.
So we need a better coordination. We kind of put this together in 2 weeks. We distributed the tickets, and we didn't really say, okay, you are designated to do this. You are the person who will come to this Mass. So delegate ahead of time. Do the planning ahead of time. And make sure that you involve all the community, basically. If you're selling tickets, you're basically telling them we're all on this together. That's my experience.
Carmen, you said so much. It's almost like you knew what's in our presentation. But a big piece of what you were talking about was mentioning that your audience, and that's so apt. You really have to know who you're talking to and what you're asking them for, and know the best ways to engage them. And you're totally right. A personal appeal is really what's going to make the difference, because people want to support the people that they love. And if the people that they love are interested and dedicated to a cause or a movement or a mission, then their friends and families and loved ones want to support them in that. So you said it very beautifully. Thanks so much for sharing.
Thank you. Thank you.
I think that the point of naming who's going to do what role is such an important thing. The example that I always use is at an event, people think that photographs are just going to get taken, right? Everybody has a camera in their pocket, someone will take pictures. You got to name the photographer, right? Because otherwise nobody ends up taking pictures because they're too busy at the event, right? So it's like that. No matter what type of event we're talking about, when you name a person to do a role, it gets taken care of. And like you said, people feel involved and participatory, and that makes them more dedicated to the action, as well as to that mission that they're involved in, right? Your parishioners are always going to feel being a part of that aspect of your church, which is wonderful. Do we have one more, or are we have some lovely presentation to give, but we like hearing from you guys too.
Okay, well, you guys, thanks so much for sharing. I mean, we covered so much already, but now I think Rachel and I are gonna start to share some of our top tips based on our own personal experiences.
Now, I will say that you guys have covered a lot of this in your examples already. So forgive us if we're a little bit repetitive, but I think that it's all good stuff. So our first best practice comes down to pretty basic question, like, what do you want to do? As you start planning your fundraiser, the first and biggest step is to determine what you want your fundraiser to be. And we always encourage you to remember that in addition to raising funds, fundraising opportunities are events that are meant to bring your community together and to bring them together around a common purpose. When you fundraise for CRS, you're inviting your community into CRS's mission and work around the world in a very real way. So how do you engage your community specifically with its own unique culture, charisms, and gifts? Think about who you want to mobilize through this event or fundraiser and craft your plan around your audience specifically. Choose stories and activities and materials that are going to resonate with the audience that you want to involve. So think through whether it's the raffle or the fish fry, or how does your community feel called to fundraise? Do they feel called to gather at table together, even if the table's takeout or virtual right now? You might think about holding an online cooking demonstration or selling cherished snacks or foods after Mass or on a weekend. Maybe your community is seeking ways to gather in faith outside of Mass. You can consider holding a multilingual rosary for the world. Or if your community already does a local drive or fundraiser each fall, think about making a local global connection. If your community is collecting food for a food bank, offer the option to donate funds for global poverty relief too. If your community is gathering welcome kits for refugees, offer the option to support people in need all around the world by donating to CRS.
And now that you've focused in on your community and the audience, it's time to think about your goals. It's important to define what success will look like for you and for your specific fundraiser, because success can and will be different for everybody. You can break down your goals into two very basic groups: participation and financial. So given that your fundraisers are community events, your audience should be at the heart of your planning. So what is your participation goal? Do you expect to see 100 people gathering or contributing, or would it be perfectly successful to have 10 truly engaged participants? So in thinking about your community, past events, and what would make you feel like your event is mobilizing people and involving them in CRS's mission. And then when you set your financial goal, it's really important to be realistic, but also aspirational. So thinking about past fundraisers, you can be creative about how you set the goal that is attainable for your community, and also makes them feel proud of the difference they're making in the world. Consider also how you will reach this goal. Are you selling tickets to an event with a portion of the ticket price being a donation amount? Or are you making a direct ask for donations during an event? Or are you prepared to accept digital donations as well as cash and check? For lots of helpful tips on how to think through and address these important questions, one very key resource is the Community Giving Toolkit, which we're linking in the chat right now. This will be a great resource for you guys to refer back to during your planning and the actual during your actual event. So definitely check it out. It'll answer quite a few questions. So the last thing I'll mention on this point is this. Remember that your goals are about your community. So if your community has the excitement and ability to throw a dinner gala to support CRS, that's great. But I don't know many communities that have that much energy right now. I mean, people are tired. It's 2021, guys. So alternatively, if the youth in your community want to celebrate bracelets to represent global unity, that's also great. The size of your event doesn't matter so much. What really matters is the engagement and the energy and effort that goes into it. So whether a fundraiser raises $1,000 or $100 or $50, you are mobilizing your community in a way that will best engage them in the mission of CRS. And that is outstanding.
So next, you got to spread the word, right? You got to let people know when things are happening, what it's going to look like. Consider what platforms your audience uses to socialize and craft your communications plan around them. So for example, with younger audiences, you might even consider advertising your event on Instagram or even TikTok. Once you've identified what platforms your community uses, you should sit down with a calendar and map out your communications plan. Identify specific dates on when you'll push out those communications to your audience, whether that's coming from a personal invitation from your pastor or whether you're putting something in the bulletin. Map it out so that you know, and like we talked about before, make sure to assign someone to get it done.
So then fourth, remain anchored in vision and gratitude. Supporters and donors want to know how they are making a difference. So look at your event and consider the points at which you can invite your participants in and inspire them with our mission. This is a great place to share stories or photos or really why you're personally committed to CRS. So how and when can you share stories about CRS's work around the world? How can you share your own motivations for working with CRS? And most importantly, how will you thank your supporters? Whether it's handwritten thank you notes, posts on social media, community announcements, text message, or some other way, find meaningful ways to thank your supporters.
And finally, use the resources that CRS provides. We recently refreshed our community fundraising pages, and so I encourage you to check them out, review all the resources that we've made to help you make your fundraisers successful. We also have that brand new community giving toolkit that has event ideas and planning steps, and it has examples for how you can make those communication outreaches. There's lots of really good information in there, and I encourage you all to take a look. We put that link in the chat again. So in just a couple minutes, we're going to move into breakout rooms. But first, I want to open it up for any questions that you might have for Grace or I from anything that we talked about or anything that's going on in your communities that you'd like a little bit of a perspective on. We're happy to give. So you can either raise your hand or you can pop those questions in the chat. So anything that you'd like to talk about. Although you guys are kind of experts, so I won't be surprised. All right.
Well, Rachel, so we have a question in the chat from Pam. Is there still a direct giving link to CRS?
Like, is there a way to do it like online? I thought there was something I filled out last year and people could just give through that way.
Yes, there are many ways to give to CRS. There are emergency specific direct links that we have going at different times. There's also on the Lead the Way website, and I'm gonna I don't know if Rachel, who is in our background, can pull that up for us quick, but we'll make sure that it is available. There's a direct giving form on that page. There's also a direct giving form on the CRS Rice Bowl page. So it depends on the time of year and what you're looking for. But yes, and before the end of the hour, I think that we can find that and pull it up. No, that's good. It's good. I should have had it ready for you.
No, you're good. Thank you.
Also, Pam, this is personal, but do you live in Dayton?
Yes. Well, I worked in Dayton, but I live in Hamilton, Ohio. Yeah.
Okay. So I grew up in Dayton and my family still lives there. So.
Oh, good. So did mine. Yeah.
Talk about local global connection. I love it.
Yeah. Well, you've done good then.
All right, are there any other questions? No? All right, Chris, no questions there. All right, cool. I think we can bop over into our breakout rooms then.
All right. So right now we're going to send you into those breakout rooms and give you a little bit of time to discuss the following questions. Right now, the call to action throughout the fall for our chapters is to be planning your fall fundraiser. For some of you, you might have already started that planning. Some of you might still be thinking about it. Some of you might be most of the way through your planning or your fundraiser, but go ahead and share what you're thinking about. And if you haven't started planning yet, go ahead and get those wheels turning. And then from our discussion today, whether from anything that Grace and I shared or from the discussion we had at the beginning, what are some key learnings that you personally are taking away from this evening that you plan on applying to a future fundraiser? So you're going to have about 15 minutes in your rooms, and those rooms will close automatically when the time is up. So enjoy. Welcome back, everybody. I hope that you had a good time talking things out. Good stuff. Does anybody feel like sharing? With this small of a group, there's time for everybody to speak up if you'd like to.
But no pressure.
Just a little bit? I don't know. Christopher, thank you.
That's okay. You know what? The discussion was really great because all of us seem to have different fundraising ideas and, ways of doing it. The takeaway I got, Cynthia, one of the people in our group, suggested to me that our parish might want to consider, we use Facebook, but she said, why don't you suggested expanding into like Instagram or TikTok and those kinds of things to kind of broaden our audience a little bit. So that was a great thing. And I'm going to bring it up. We meet on Saturday, our chapter meets on Saturday. I'm going to bring it up and see if, that's a possibility we can do that.
Sounds great. Yeah. I mean, be where your people are, right? And if that's what people are using, then that's the place to be. Speaking of different platforms, I'd also like to bring up the Communities platform. I don't know if any of you guys have had a chance to get access to Communities yet, but that's going to be a great place for you guys to be able to share ideas and information and have more connections like this one. So while it's not necessarily a platform to get information out to your community, this is a community too, and we'd love for you guys to be exchanging information in that space as well. I saw Pam come off of mute. Would you like to share?
Well, I was going to give some kudos to Linda, who was in our group, and she was talking about having a partnership with 10,000 villages, and that it would be like a one-day sale and that people could go there. And as long as they mentioned CRS, then that would put them in 15% set aside from that sale for CRS. They wouldn't get the discount. I hope I'm saying this right, Linda. But then also Cynthia came up with a great idea too about streaming before the masses, that when people are waiting, to do some announcements of what's happening. And I'm thinking we haven't tried that. So that would be another good idea. A lot of it is on publicity and promotion, is what we need, or at least I think we need for our group.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Like to pop in before the live stream of the mass. That's a really great idea. If you do that, let us know how it goes. I'd be curious to hear the response.
And I think that you bring up by saying that like a really important point too, is that I think that when we talk about putting on a fundraiser or putting on an event, it's really easy to think, oh, I have to do something entirely new. And yes, of course, we want to be super creative, and there's great things that can come out of creativity, but sometimes it is those simple realizations of like, oh yeah, we are already streaming. There are already people watching this. There's an opportunity there. And so finding those opportunities and things that are already going on can be sometimes even more powerful than putting out the next new thing, right?
One of the things we tried to to do better this past year with our Rice Bowl project was engage our faith formation kids in the and through them families. So we asked our director of faith formation if we could have her distribute a little card with information about this fundraiser that we're doing at 10,000 Villages, just to, again, trying to figure out ways to get people's attention. And with all the media platforms that there are, it's a little bit challenging sometimes. So she's said that she was willing to do that. So again, we're hoping to get some traction there. And someone, I don't know how to do this, but someone on our committee knew how to create a QR code to put on this postcard that would link to a CRS video that someone could, I mean, who knew? But we're really excited because, again, telling those stories is so important, but it's hard to get people to go to a website if they, have to get on their computer and click and all that stuff. So we're trying a few different things to try to get people's attention.
And I think that's so great. I mean, and COVID has made everything so weird. I mean, from our day-to-day lives to how we interact with people and then how we are engaging communities and fundraisers. I mean, if you would have told me that 5 years ago QR codes were gonna like take over, I would have said no one uses those. And now everything is on a QR code. So I mean, kudos to you guys for rolling with it and trying these new things. I mean, I really feel for everybody, right? Like it's just hard. It's hard to engage with people now. Everybody has a lot of different things going on. It's hard to find a virtual space or a socially distant, comfortable space. So I applaud your efforts. That's great.
I think you've obviously picked the perfect time of year for doing a fundraiser
Right.
like that, leading up to the
Yeah.
holidays. That's wonderful.
We're hopeful. And the store is hopeful that we'll be helping them to generate some business too. So it really is a partnership.
For sure.
They have those really beautiful bread warming baskets.
Yeah, there's some very nice things.
And I'll lift up one other thing that I think is wonderful. Not only utilizing the QR code, but utilizing that video to share the story, right?
Yes.
Like you said, making sure that people are seeing and hearing that story. And goodness knows that videos, the visuals behind it are so powerful. And again, these things exist and they're there for you, and we want you to use them and share them. And so I'm glad to hear that the resources are being used and in such a creative way. It's wonderful. I think we have time for one more person to share if anyone else would like to lift up part of what you talked about.
Or we can even open the floor if anybody has specific questions.
Well, hearing none, that's all right. We definitely want to thank you guys for being here tonight. I'd like to call your attention to two more things before we head out. My colleague Rachel Malinowski dropped the direct donation link into the chat there. So we made sure to follow up on that piece. Also, the community giving platforms, which we call Donor Drive, encourage you to check that out and see everything that's available there, and to consider having a digital aspect to your fundraiser. It makes it really easy to spread the word, and there's direct links to things like Facebook that you can just push a button and it'll post right up. So good stuff there. But for now, thank you very, very much for being here today. I think that Grace, you have the last word.
Yeah, so I'll just copy what Rachel was saying with a very hearty thank you for everyone for coming and participating. We're just so lucky as an organization to have so many amazing supporters who are who are willing to like spread our mission and our work with their greater community. So thank you for all of your hard work and effort. It's not going unnoticed. And so the last thing I'll say is that we are dropping a short link to an evaluation in the chat. So if you feel inspired, feel free to fill that out, and that will help us in improving these future trainings. But otherwise, just thanks so much, and keep up the great work. And if there's anything we can do to help, please don't hesitate to reach out. And if you want to, you're welcome to unmute yourself and say goodbye, or just sign up as you like.
Thanks.
Thanks,
Good to be
everybody.
with you. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.